Buongiorno, my fellow movie lovers, and welcome back to Movie Frenzy. Today's pick is a 2004 erotic body horror called Primo Amore, or First Love. A spoiler alert is in effect, so proceed with caution. Okay, let's go. The movie begins with a shot of a dying man on the floor, seemingly thinking out loud to his lover in his final moments. However, we don't get to see her. The opening credits begin and then we are introduced to our two leads. Vittorio, aka Vito, a highly obsessive goldsmith, and Sonia, a nude model. They meet up at a tram station for a blind date, but Vito is a little disappointed by the way Sonia looks. He thinks she's too fat, even though she's fairly thin, and it leads to an awkward moment. Anyway, they decide to grab a cup of coffee for the time being. They try to talk at first, but Sonia is still feeling affected because of what Vittorio said earlier about her weight. However, they still manage to get to know each other's occupations and say goodbye. Vittorio goes back home and makes some notes of her in his little notebook. He mentions how she is too fat for him and does not meet his standards for his desires to come true. The desire is that he wants to meet a woman in extremely thin body so that he can make gold figurines of her and keep them as his artistic treasure. The next day, he visits a nude sketching class where he spots Sonia posing nude for the entire class. He analyzes her body and gains an interest. They eventually get together and spend the night with each other at Vito's place. The next day, Sonia tries to act friendly after finding him outside, but Vito remains distant. He meets a doctor later and complains of not finding a woman with the right mind and body for his desires. The doctor warns him to be careful as he's also on some medication, but Vito doesn't care about that. Later, Sonia visits Vito's workshop, but he avoids answering the door and stays out of sight. She drops a gift for him and leaves. Vito opens up the gift and finds a scarf, and after some consideration, he decides to meet her at work in front of her colleagues wearing the same scarf. The two of them begin to date properly now, and Vito decides to try and change her body to suit his ideals. He takes her to his workshop where she meets his employees. They tell her about an ex-employee who got fired for stealing gold dust from the office. Time passes by and the two lovers become inseparable. Vito even decides to buy a house for them to stay in and takes Sonia to check it out. At first, she seems hesitant to move in with him, but she eventually agrees after Vito forces her to give him an answer in front of the agent. Sonia's brother visits the place to get to know Vito better. He's a little skeptical of this move, but admits that it's not his choice to make and accepts his sister's decision. Later that night, Sonia and Vittorio dance with each other to some slow music to celebrate their new life together. One day, the couple chills out in a public pool, and Sonia notices an attractive young woman next to them. However, Vito doesn't even look at the woman and it makes Sonia curious and jealous at the same time. She lets her thoughts get to her and decides to lose more weight with a new diet in order to impress Vito. The couple works together on this and the progress is positive at first. Vito is happy with the results and all seems well. During an encounter with some clients, Vito gets the raw end of a business deal and it makes him upset because his friend Paolo doesn't take his side. One day, Sonia shows him how much weight she's lost, but Vito doesn't believe what the weighing scale is showing. He becomes obsessed with this matter because he thinks that Sonia is manipulating the scale to show an incorrect reading. He even goes to a professional measurer to confirm his doubts, and their discussion only makes him more paranoid. He decides to confront Sonia about this and even argues with her over an extra cookie she ate with her friends. Luckily, they hug and make up soon after. Now, Vito meets his doctor and tells him about his mission with Sonia. The doctor gets worried and says that it's not Vito's right to force her into losing weight this way, but he argues with him saying that Sonia wants to do it with her own free will. Some more time passes by, and Sonia has greatly reduced her weight, as can be seen by the chart she maintains to keep track of her progress. She can't fit into her older clothes anymore, so she goes out shopping with Vito to try on some outfits. He forces her to go for much tighter dresses, and Sonia starts to realize that this relationship is becoming toxic. She breaks down into tears in front of him, and the saleswoman at the store and Vito try to console her without creating a scene. In between all this, Vito starts to slack off with his work and it makes Paolo upset. He warns him to buck up, otherwise he will end up losing all his business. Even Sonia faces issues at work due to her increased weakness and quarrels with her co-workers over the smallest of issues. Things get even worse when Vito's employees come to him and say that they want to quit because it's not working out for them and they found better jobs. Sonia uses distractions like these to sneak into the kitchen and eat some real food to satisfy her cravings. Vito is left with no choice but to sell his machinery and his workshop in order to get some more money to support them. Sonia has already quit her job by now and starts to worry about their financial future. It gets Vito very worked up. The couple decides to go to a club to refresh their minds and relax. However, Sonia suddenly faints due to her weakness, and everyone tries to tend to her. However, Vito doesn't let them take care of her and keeps insisting that he knows what's wrong with her. The club owner doesn't agree with him, and a fight breaks out between the two. Despite everyone in the club trying to help her, Sonia tells them to leave her and Vito alone. They are thrown out of the club as a result of this. Sonia's brother visits their home one day and she shows him her new plantations. But then he notices that she's lost a lot of weight and asks her to tell him about any problems she might be facing with Vito. But she only hugs him and doesn't say a word after that. Vito goes about making some gold bars in a very lengthy process and comes back home with them to show Sonia. But when he arrives, he doesn't find her anywhere and looks around. He starts to panic, but then she appears from behind and says that she had just gone for a walk. She is visibly weaker than what she used to be and cannot even walk at a proper pace. Sonia ends up losing a total of 15 kilos, but this does not seem to be enough for Vito. He tells her that her body will eventually get used to this weight and goes on to explain how he's planned for her look when she turns 40 as well. However, the relationship slowly starts to fall apart due to Sonia's suffering. She sneaks out of the bed and goes to the kitchen at night to grab some food, but she is unable to find anything in the fridge or the drawers because Vito has hidden the food somewhere else. All that is available are some raw vegetables, so she ends up munching on them. The couple goes out for dinner one night, and while Vito orders a lot of heavy food for himself, he only allows Sonia to order a salad, despite her wanting to try some meat. An old friend bumps into Vito and takes him away from Sonia to catch up with his old crew. During this time, their food arrives at the table. Sonia tries eating the salad, but can't control her urges when she sees the meat and pasta in front of her. She starts off with a small bite, but this triggers her hunger, and she ends up eating the whole meal from his plate. Vito notices it and rushes towards her, but she grabs the plate and runs inside the kitchen. He follows her inside and finds the entire staff asking Sonia to leave. Vito angrily takes her away, but she resists him and tries to eat whatever she can from the kitchen. She ends up causing a lot of drama and has to be forced out of the kitchen by everyone. When they get home, Vito forces Sonia to puke everything out into the toilet. Vito becomes angry and throws a fit by burning all the clothes he had gotten for her to try. Then he strips her down and ridicules her for betraying her diet. He even shows her where he's been hiding the food. Sonia has had enough and wants to leave Vito, but he plays mind games with her upon hearing this because he has nothing else to live for. He refuses to let her go, and with no other option left, Sonia strikes him down with a hot metal rod when he's not looking. Having finally set herself free from Vito's grasp, Sonia dresses up immediately. The movie goes back into the first scene where we see Vito bleeding out on the floor while he talks to Sonia outside. He realizes how he was wrong about choosing a woman whose body and mind were not aligned, and laments that their relationship was always doomed to fail. The movie ends with Vito breathing his last breath and the camera panning towards the night sky. And there you go, guys, that was Primo Amore recapped by yours truly. It was a very dark tale on the boundaries of human desire, and it really highlights the complexities of a troubled mind psychology. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see more content from foreign cinema. Feel free to drop any of your favorite movies in the comments below and I'll see what I can do. Till next time then, ciao!